All right. So I'd like to talk about the NFL draft with you guys just a little bit. More specifically, I'd like to talk about quarterbacks with you guys. So, unless there is a surefire generational prospect at quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, Andrew Luck, Caleb Williams, NFL teams should draft on potential, not performance. So I'm going to steal Colin Cowherd's thoughts on this a little bit because I feel like they're just absolutely dead on. What most of these big time college quarterbacks deal with in college at big time colleges, I'm talking Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson's, Georgia's of the world, those top flight college programs, what they deal with is not what the NFL reality is. In college, if you play quarterback at Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, you as the quarterback have the best athletes catching passes, best linemen blocking, best coaches coaching, better facilities, better trainers, everything around you. Your surroundings are better than what you are going up against outside of 3 or 4 games per season. And in those games, when you're playing against another Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, it's often close to a wash. That is once again not the reality of life as a quarterback in the NFL. You're not going to have always have the best wide receivers. You're not always going to have the best coach. You're not always going to have the best offensive line. A glaring example of this is Patrick Mahomes. This last season, his wide receiver one was Juju Smith-Schuster. Given he did have Travis Kelce, but he put up over 5,000 yards in the air throwing to mid-season acquisition in Kadarius Toney, Juju Smith-Schuster, Travis Kelce, and Sky Moore. He did not have the benefit of having all-star wide receivers this season, and he still got it done. So when these major college quarterbacks enter the NFL, they put up numbers, they put up stats, they look good on film. Because why wouldn't they? Very often, when you see the guys who have succeeded in the NFL, they've had to struggle at some point in college. They didn't just get to walk on the field and everything was easy. They've had to transfer. They went to smaller schools. They had to struggle at some point to get to where they are at now, and they've had to face some adversity to become who they are. Let's look at some of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. And the list I'm just going to throw them out. It's not about the list itself, but just about where they went to school and what they had to overcome when they were in college. Most of these guys didn't go to major schools, and the ones that did go to major schools, they transferred because they couldn't see the field because something happened. They had to overcome some adversity in college. Patrick Mahomes went to Texas Tech. Really? Texas Tech? Joe Burrow went to Ohio State and LSU. Okay, so he did go to 2 major schools, but he couldn't even find his way onto the field at Ohio State, so he had to transfer. Then he went through some adversity still. He suffered a really mediocre first season at LSU, and then had the greatest college season a quarterback has ever had. Okay, so he did still face a little bit of adversity, but he was really being drafted based on the potential of what coaches saw in that one season. Okay, Jalen Hurts went to Alabama and Oklahoma. Once again, 2 major schools. But this dude got benched in the national championship game and had to watch his backup win it and basically lost his job the subsequent season. So he transferred. Imagine having to swallow that pill at 21 years old. Imagine having to look yourself in the mirror after being told you aren't good enough to win a college championship at Alabama. Ouch, man. That's adversity. Josh Allen went to Wyoming. Speaks for itself. Justin Herbert played at Oregon. Now, Oregon's a good school, okay? But do they have the best athletes? Do they have the best coaches? Do they have the best offensive line? No. Oregon isn't in the same breath as Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, even though they seem to beat them every single year. Trevor Lawrence, you got me there. Okay. Trevor Lawrence went to Clemson, but he's like the lone exception. He was the number 1 player out of high school, number 1 player in college, and he's proving to be a shooting star in the NFL as well. Lamar Jackson, Louisville. I mean, dude, did this dude play with a single other NFL player or starter in college? Adversity. It wasn't perfect for him. To back this up just a little bit further, let's double down and look at the previous generation of quarterbacks as well. Real quick, Tom Brady went to Michigan, couldn't even start in college, ended up a 6th-round pick. Adversity. Drew Brees went to Purdue, not a college football powerhouse, also a 2nd-round pick. Big Ben went to Miami of Ohio. Who? Aaron Rodgers went to Cal. Once again, not a college powerhouse. Peyton Manning, he went to Tennessee. He's the Trevor Lawrence of this group. He's the lone standout. He went to Tennessee when they were a college powerhouse. He was a number 1 quarterback in high school, number 1 quarterback in college, and then came out, and obviously he became Peyton Manning. He's a Hall of Fame player. You kind of get where I'm going with this. The all-time greats, the guys who are great, have had to go through something. Let's look at the guys who went to the powerhouse schools and are playing right now. Justin Fields went to Ohio State. Okay, look, they would have traded. There was talk about the Bears trading him and picking a different quarterback with number 1. If Caleb Williams was in this draft right now, they would have traded him. He would not be a Chicago Bear right now. He's a great athlete, but is he a great quarterback? We're going to see this season. And as much as I really like Justin Fields, I want to see Justin Fields succeed. They lost 10 straight games, and they did end up with the number 1 pick. He's still a question mark. Mac Jones went to Alabama. Good, not great. Took a little bit of a lump this past season. I don't put a ton of blame on him. He had to deal with Matt Patricia, a defensive coordinator, calling plays. But he also deals with not having great offensive weaponry around him. But coming out of college, we all know he was limited. He wasn't a great prospect, and he's arguably the 10th best quarterback in his conference, let alone the NFL. Tua Tagovailoa went to Alabama. Tua looked pretty good this season, okay? But before this season, before he got hurt, he looked like a bust. Let's call it how it is. He looked like a bust. He didn't face any adversity in college. He dealt with injuries in college, and he's dealt with injuries in pros. But at one point, he looked like a bust. We'll have to see what it is this season. Kyler Murray, okay? Kyler Murray went to Oklahoma. He has individually looked really good at times, but he doesn't win enough. He's often injured, and he deals with maturity issues. He did face a little bit of adversity in college, where the transfer from Texas Tech to Oklahoma. But what do we actually think of Kyler Murray? I mean, it's a mixed bag, I guess. Deshaun Watson is another one. I mean, he looked to be one of those exceptions before this season, where he looked really, really, really good. And last season, he looked really, really, really bad. So what I'm getting at is all of the great quarterbacks in the NFL right now face some adversity. What adversity did Bryce Young face? What adversity did CJ Stroud face? They stepped in at great programs, replaced great quarterbacks at great schools with great players, with great coaches, with great offensive linemen, with great receivers. If you're picking early in the draft, it almost doesn't make sense to pick a quarterback from a big school for the reasons I talked about, unless they've had the transfer or unless they've gone through some adversity. The great quarterbacks in the NFL right now that played at big-time schools had the transfer for one reason or the other. The rest were second-tier schools or worse. They had to fight through some form of adversity. They had to overcome something in their college days that I guess that helped mold them for the NFL. If you're a quarterback-needy team, take the guy with the potential over the proven guy at the college level. This is not me saying that Anthony Richardson and Will Levis are going to be all-time great players. But this is me saying that if you are going to draft a player that high, draft a player with all the potential in the world, not that you've seen get it done. Because there's a reason that you have seen them get it done. It's because they've got the better players, the better coaches, the better line, the better offensive personnel, the better trainers, the better training staff, the better facilities. They should look better.